whole life, so they never really knew what it was like to be more active and more fit and fit into smaller clothes and stuff like that. So it's typically always the guys who were once fit or like were once active, but then stopped and then couldn't figure out how to get back to it.
Yeah.
Um, if that makes sense, I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling here, but that's
No,
just
yeah, it totally makes sense. Having
yeah,
done wrestling in high school and being in great shape, as we continue
gotcha.
through college and then finally start with our first big entrepreneur adventures or corporate adventures, we definitely
Right.
put that to second place, and it's so
Yep.
important today, not only to have the proper mindset, but also physical body so that way you can actually work these hours and do what's needed as an entrepreneur. So yeah, I'm really excited to jump into the interview. Did you want to do the interview and then talk about the birthday assistant one, or did you just want to catch up, because I know we've been playing a little bit of tag with each other?
Yeah. I guess I'm open, man. Like, what's to go? I mean, we've spoke a little bit in Messenger, but I guess I just came to this call with no agenda. I mean, it was just more to meet you and have a chat. So yeah,
So
what's on your mind?
I want to talk to you about the birthday stuff because you seem really interested about that, and we're in pre-launch. But second, I
Right.
wanted to get you on to the podcast that I'm launching called Conversion Icons.
Oh,
And
that's
what
right.
we do is we
Yeah.
talk about all digital marketing, mindset, what does it take to build an online business. But one topic we haven't really talked about yet is really, hey guys, it's Allen Kotlyar from Conversion Icons with another awesome interview. Today we have Zac Mason talking with us about entrepreneurship, mindset, and physical mentality. The important thing is that you guys continue to build your entrepreneur ventures and online websites is that it takes a lot of energy, and it requires you to put in extra time and effort in the morning and the evening. And a lot of people were wondering, where do you get this energy to build this business, right? And I'm very glad to have Zac on the phone with us today and sharing his details of how he built his online business and how he's been able to help busy entrepreneurs take care of themselves, both mentally and physically, with his own specific regimen that he developed from years of experience and winning several different awards, being a professional bodybuilder and athlete. So, Zac, thanks so much for coming on Conversion Icons. Welcome. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and why the people that are listening should listen to you?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for that intro, Alan. That was on point. Um, so I'll try to keep this as brief as possible, but I think it might help to kind of give a bit of a backstory. So I guess in my late teens and early 20s, I was kind of working the family business, and essentially my father started up a new business in the construction game. So, but from nothing, it was kind of like a fresh idea, fresh concept. So I was kind of helping him do that, and very quickly, things picked up. And with any kind of startup, once you get that momentum, it's kind of like all in. So I was working almost 7 days a week, or it kind of felt like it. And it was like from waking up to going to bed. It was, if it wasn't work based, it was, either sitting at home thinking about work, talking about work, or out for dinner with meetings based around work and the business and client meetings. So it was like 24/7 business, which for me at the time I was like, well, this is cool. It's kind of like a business course. I'm learning about how to start a company from scratch, but very quickly started to burn out, got very stressful. The company didn't really go according to plan. There was a lot of setbacks, like when starting any new business, you think it's going to be amazing from day one and it's all going to go according to plan, but it just never does. And a few things kind of went sour here and there, and it just became really stressful. And at that point, going to the gym and like training became like a bit of an escape, like an external thing to deal with the anxiety, the pressure, the uncertainty and stress of being so young and working in a new company. And I didn't even have any qualifications back then, so I was just trying to figure it out on the go. And the more I went to the gym, the more I started like spending more and more time there because I was like, if I train for 2 hours and that's 2 hours, I don't have to deal with stuff at the office or business. So I started thinking like, man, wouldn't it be good if I could just like go to the gym and then get paid to go to the gym and then help people in the gym. So my whole life could revolve around the gym. And then just started training more and more. And then I've had people help me to improve my training. And it got to a point where I had like a mate of mine said, look, why don't you compete, give it a go. And I was like, nah, that's not really what I want to do. I don't want to get on stage and flex my muscles in a bloody G string and, show off and all that. I mean, it looked cool, but I was like, I could never see myself doing that. I was like, nah,
Yep.
that's not me. Like I couldn't do that. I didn't think that was even possible for me to get into that shape. So we kept training for a while, and then he, brought it up um, after a couple of months, and I'd seen some progress. So I was like, you know what, like maybe it could be a bit of a goal to set to give me something to work towards. And I realized like, if I could do this, that would be a pretty massive um, leap forward from where I've always been, not just with how I look, but with confidence, with self-esteem, because I never was like an overweight or obese kid, but I was always super like overly self-conscious of how I looked, and I was never really satisfied and felt like really inferior to a lot of other guys who were into sports and fitness and stuff like that. So I was never really happy with my body and kind of always wanted to like hide it and was never comfortable having my shirt off and stuff like that. So I thought, you know what, maybe this is a chance for me to finally get over all that mental blocks and just negative beliefs and kind of self-doubt. So yeah, went at it and gave it my best and kind of overcame that barrier and got on stage and did it. And then that kind of what ignited the fire. And you kind of, when you get into that scene, you catch the bug. It's like when you start a business and you finally make that first sale, you catch the bug and it's like an addiction. You just want to make another one, another one, another one. And then it just snowballs from there. So I kind of got stuck on that path for a while and competed in a few shows. And then again in 2016, and then even went to the Philippines and competed over there, which was a lot of fun. But after that, once I kind of, got the trophy and did a few things and kind of saw it for what it was, I was like, you know what, there's not really a lot of longevity in this. And it's very selfish sport, like focused on myself all the time and pisses off everyone else, family, 6 months of the year, you're like a robot and you can't do anything. And I was like, yeah, this is probably not sustainable. But it taught me skills that I didn't have. And what I figured out is now I could help somebody else because I'd actually done it. So I didn't just read a fucking textbook, and sorry for swearing. Am I allowed to swear on this show?
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
I didn't just read a textbook and do a 2 week course. I actually put myself in the trenches and did it physically, and then that's what taught me how everything works. So when people tell me, oh, fasting is the best way to lose weight, well, I know what fasting is because I did it, and I've also done other stuff which is not fasting, and I still got results. So there's a difference between the guy who's read it or listened to it on YouTube or who's actually done it, and I'm proud to say I actually did it. So this is what inspired me to get into fitness and get qualified and become a trainer first and kind of get my hands-on experience working in the gym, because like I wanted to go online straight away. And then when I reached out to these online mentors who had all their Facebook ads going bonkers back in 2016, yeah, that's kind of like the ripe time for online coaches, I guess, who got in early
Yeah.
prior to all the Russell Brunson boom, if you want to call it that. I reached out to a coach back then, and he was like, "Look, man, get your qualifications, get in the gym, get some experience first, and then reach back out to me, and then we can talk about it." So I did that, and then did that for like a couple of years, and then went online in 2018. Got a mentor, which was pretty scary because it was like, I think it was like 4.5 grand, and like I'd never invested that much money into like anything. So I was like, holy shit, this is a big step. But he taught me how to go from just working one on one in person to developing a course and a program that's based around a specific type of person, a niche who have a desire and a need, and then how to package up that service and deliver coaching behind it. And yeah, here we are. Been online now for over 2 years, and just keep just been building on it ever since, really. So anyway, I feel like I've been talking for like an hour, so I'll shut up now.
No, that's a great introduction. Um, because everybody that we have here on Conversion Icons are not
Yep.
people of theory. They're people that have actually done it, right? And one of the reasons that I wanted you to come on the show was because I've been seeing you consistently promote yourself online, right? There's
Yeah.
some people that, you know, make this business a hobby, right? There's some people that wonder why it works, and then there's people that work it, right? And you're
Yeah.
definitely one of the few that are consistently promoting yourself. And a lot of people that are listening to this podcast are interested in what's the day in and day out of a digital marketer, and also a little bit different since you are in the fitness space, in personal trainer. So I thought it would be
Yep.
great to have you come on to talk about what do you do to keep yourself in shape mentally and physically as an entrepreneur, and what do you suggest other people that are in the same space that are sitting at their computer for long hours a day, to be productive, and also to be able to, provide the best possible value to their customers.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, look, to be completely honest and upfront with whoever's listening to this, obviously I'm in fitness. That's my profession. That's my passion, and I've been in the trenches for years. So I have a bias and an advantage because for me, fitness is my business. So it's easier for me to stay in shape than it is for someone who might be running, some massive online marketing business that isn't in fitness, because fitness is not the primary product or selling point, right? So just getting that bias out of the way so that people understand that I probably make it look really easy, but it is what I do for a living. Now, having said that, what do I do? Well, plain and simple, I work out 3 to 4 times a week. These days, it's more like three, just because I'm a bit lazy and it is, New Year's and Christmas time and all that stuff. So I kind of don't feel like going every day. Um, but yeah, 3 to 4 times a week. I've been doing that for, I don't know, I kind of lost count now, but let's say at least 7 years consistently. And the key word is consistently. So, for example, like I was meant to work out yesterday, but I didn't because I just wasn't feeling 100%. I was meant to work out today, but I'm still not feeling 100%. And because of COVID, I just don't want to put myself at risk. So I'm already behind the eight ball. But because I've had years of consistency, it doesn't matter so much. So I guess the mindset I'm trying to get across to you is to stop focusing so much on like, how many workouts can I do this week and this month to get shredded? Think about what type of workouts can I do every week for the next 12 months and not screw it up and miss a whole week, if that makes sense. And there's a principle that James Clear talks about, the guy who wrote Atomic Habits, and I think it goes like this. It's something about, oh yeah, it's something like never miss twice. So what he says is, if you have a bad day, that's cool, but just don't make it two bad days. And I think that's where a lot of people get, where especially guys that I work with in the entrepreneurial, business space, they go really, really hard all the time. And as soon as they have one bad day, it's like they've just jumped off the cliff and it's all gone to shit.
Hmm.
But you need to change that mindset and stop seeing like, one missed workout is not the end of the world. You can just get back on it tomorrow. Or if you were meant to eat a salad for lunch and you had McDonald's, it's just one lunch of thousands of lunches. Like, make the next lunch what it was meant to be, or make up for it at dinner time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
I think on that topic, that's so important because what happens is people tend to make that one day into a week and then a month.
yes.
And
Yeah.
then they go
Yeah.
into what's either a upward spiral or a downward spiral in their habits and then in their actions. I know it's happened for me, right? You miss a couple workouts and then all of a sudden you look back and it's a month or a year later and you wonder what happened. And it's
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of that mentality of like you feel a little bit bad, so you don't do anything again, and then you feel a little bit worse,
Yeah.
and then eventually you forget what's normal.
Yeah, no, and I was in that same space as well. Like in my first couple of years of training, if I missed a workout, I was so guilty. I'd beat myself up. I'd be like, shit, I didn't work out. Like I'm so lazy. I'm call myself all these names. But now I'm so far into it. I'm like, oh, I missed a workout. I'm like, oh, well, that's not cool, but it's all right. I'll make up for it. You know what I mean? Like you got to have that faith, and you've got to learn to have trust and faith in yourself that you're going to stick to it. It's like investing. Like, if you treat your fitness and health like investing in Bitcoin, then you're not going to do very well, because you're going to go hard when it looks good. And then when it looks bad, you're going to bail out and, be miserable and guilty about it. Right. So it is a long-term thing. You're born with your health. We mostly die because of our health, and everything that happens in between is up to us and how we manage it. So it's a management. It's a management problem, but it's also a quality of life skill. And that's what I want to get across to people, is start looking at your health and fitness, your body, as a skill. And if it's not where you want it to be, it's because you do not have the skills. The beauty of skills is we can learn them and we can practice them and they get better. It's just how it works. Like you can see guitars in the background here. Like I recently picked up a guitar again after like 15 years. And yeah, I sucked, but practicing for like 10 minutes a day for 3 months, you'll be shocked how quickly your brain remembers the patterns and kind of figures out what to do without a lot of effort. But it's the consistency that gets you to that outcome.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think I've made my point pretty clear on what do I do and how I think about it. So
Yeah. So what do you suggest people to do to break out of that consistent pattern? Because
yeah,
I truly believe that we have patterns, right? And we could be
yeah,
unconsciously good at some things and unconsciously bad at other things. So we have to relearn these habits, right? We have to
yep.
do them enough times to where a bad habit is erased and now we're replacing it with a good habit. How do you work with your clients that are so busy? They got tons of things going on. They have their family, they have their business, and they don't have really time to eat right or to exercise properly. What do you suggest for them?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's really like the biggest, say, brick wall for most guys is the time factor, and it's also the priority and the focus factor. And it's a real thing, but the block that's in the way is really in the mindset, and it's more of a perspective thing. So, if you are super busy and you're working 50, 60 or more hours a week, which is pretty common, especially in the online space, because everyone makes out that, working online is freedom, but all those people are at their computer for 12 hours a day. So are you really free? Not really. So like, let's just be open and honest about it. And like, I'm at my computer for most of the day too. So I'm not bragging about that. But my point is perspective. So I think it's easier to say I don't have the time than it is to figure out how to freaking do it. And this is why our clients pay me, because they don't have the time to figure it out. And that's understandable. This is why I hire business coaches, because I don't have time to study all the best businesses and figure out what the best practice is. So I pay for help. And I'm sure just like you have, like it's like paying Russell Brunson for ClickFunnels, because you don't have time to make ClickFunnels. So just freaking pay for the service, right? Now, if you do have time to figure it out, good for you. You've cracked the code and you're very successful. You're buying back your time. But most people aren't. So you need to change your perspective. And that is, how can I learn the skills and be held accountable to do them for long enough to make it a habit, and then build discipline so it becomes a way of life. And the example I like to use is like learning how to ride a bike. So when you were like 4 or 5 or 6 or whenever the hell we learned to ride a bike, you don't just jump on it and start doing wheelies and bunny hops. Like, you have training wheels and you put on a helmet and pads and all these things, and your parents is holding you and pushing you. You're not even freaking pedaling. Like, someone's like physically holding you and holding your hand to learn how to ride a bike. Then as your confidence builds, you stop thinking about how do I pedal, becomes secondary. You stop thinking about how do I steer, it becomes instinctual. And then the more you do it, the less you think about it. Riding a bike becomes a habit. You just sit on the damn thing, you pedal and you steer, and you just do what you want to do with it. You're just worried about where am I going versus how am I pedaling, how am I steering. And eventually you take the training wheels off, and mum and dad stands back and you're riding off into the sunset, right? Like a happy ending in a cartoon or something. Now, it's the same process when it comes to your health and fitness, and that's essentially what I'm doing for my clients. Is like I've got the training wheels on, helping them get up to speed, learn the habits, and have someone hold them accountable. So it's like, okay, this is what you need to do. Did you do it? Yes, no. How do we make it easier for you to do? Because the easier it is to do, the more likely you are to do it. So you've probably seen a lot of people, especially in the first week of January, all being like, just started my 75 hard challenge. Here's a picture of me in the bathroom. I drank 10 gallons of water and did 3 workouts already today. And I'm on holidays, so I can do all this. But when work starts, it's not going to happen, right? So it's all very like pie in the sky, Alice in Wonderland until reality bites. But if you are busy, change your perspective. So some more practical things is like, if you're super busy, I guarantee you're still eating. Otherwise, you wouldn't gain weight because you can't gain weight from oxygen breathing it in. It's got to come from food. So the point I'm making here is that you, regardless of how busy you are, you're still going to eat 2 to 3 times a day. It's the quality and the quantity of what goes in your mouth that determines the size and mass of your body, right? So I don't care if you're working 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week. You can still lose weight just from your diet. If you eat right and you know what you need to eat for your body type, for your energy expenditure, which is how much movement you're doing a day, and any type of exercise that you're doing. Now, that's just the nutritional part. When it comes to exercise, well, you're either sitting at your computer all day, or you got a bit of both. You're half at your computer, or you're half moving around, meeting people, walking, doing something that's like a more of an active type of work in your business, or you're like completely active and on your feet all the day. Now, that's going to have a different impact on how much energy you're expending, which is going to impact the amount of food that you should or should not eat to lose body fat, right? Now, the reason I'm talking about body fat is because predominantly I work with guys who need to lose somewhere between 20 to 40 pounds or thereabouts, because it's not fun being, overweight and unfit whilst trying to run a business, because it slows you down. It's, your energy levels are going to be off, and also your recovery is not going to be as good. It's just more taxing on the body to be carrying around more weight than it needs to have. And on the flip side, if you can get yourself just a little bit more fitter, lighter, um, stronger, you're going to have more energy. You're going to think clearer. You're going to make better decisions, and you're going to actually enjoy your lifestyle more than just working all the time. And then when you're not working, being exhausted and too unfit to go do something fun. Because, like, what's the point of just working yourself into the grave if you can't actually enjoy your life outside of that? That's my philosophy on it. So, what I suggest is, taking a good look at what you're actually eating, um, and what type of movement you're doing, and just ask yourself simple questions. So, what can I do to improve what I'm actually consuming on a daily basis right now? Can you hear me, Alan? I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you for sure. I mean, everything you're saying is critical because when you start working out, not only does it change your energy level, it changes your confidence level. And as an entrepreneur, your
Yeah,
confidence is what's going to is going to determine how many sales you're going to make, how you come across in your videos, how your marketing is. And
exactly.
truly, I know when you have to have a positive image as an entrepreneur, because if you
Yeah,
don't have a positive image, when you look at yourself or when you talk about yourself and you talk about your history, it comes across in very small, subtle, subconscious cues that people pick up on. And that
yeah,
is what branding and being an entrepreneur is all about. We need to do
yeah,
as much as possible to clear our head of the negative thoughts
yeah.
and develop our body and our energy so that way we can get through the day at a optimal pace.
Yeah. There's everything you just said. There's actually so much in there that we could unpack, but I guess the key points, in terms of like the confidence levels and your ability to, I guess, put yourself out there and not have any fear of judgment, is such a real thing. And even one of my clients, just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to him about this, about how he's been like putting off his new course because he doesn't want to like record himself being 20 pounds overweight, because it's just in the back of his mind that, people are going to judge him because he's never been this, his weight has never been so high, and he's never felt like so big. He just doesn't want to like have that on camera in front of, thousands of people that he's selling his course to. So that's a very real thing. And like that's, if you're trying to grow your business, but you're worried about how do I look and are people going to judge me at the same time, that's not a productive thought process for the growth and success of where you're at in business. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah,
So why don't we unpack that a little bit more? Okay, so
sure.
um, you're busy, you're an entrepreneur, you're building your business, right? So very true, right? You can control your day, right? A lot of
Yep.
people are reactive. They're not proactive in their business. They're taking emails, taking phone calls whenever they come in, right? They're trying to deal with all of the things going on in their business. So I imagine part of your training when you're sitting and working with entrepreneurs is you help them regain their day, right? You help them actually figure out how to be proactive versus reactive. Is that part of your training?
Yeah, that's a key part of it. So if you're starting the week and you don't know what days you're working out, you don't know what food you're eating, how much, at what times, the chances are you're going to drop the ball, fumble around and trip over, and no one's going to come pick you up and save you, right? So the key to being consistent with your health and fitness is to be ahead of the game, to think ahead and be like, okay. And I say this to my clients, I'm like, look, this is the goals for this week. This is the target you need to hit each day. Is there anything that's going to get in the way of this? And they're like, oh yeah, I have a client meeting on Tuesday. There's probably going to be a few bottles of wine and a bunch of food. I'm like, good, that's coming up. So on Tuesday, your breakfast needs to look more like this, your lunch needs to look more like that. And I need you to track X, Y, and Z to the best of your ability, so that if there is a bit of damage done, we know how to fix it on Wednesday and Thursday. So yes, being proactive is a crucial element to you actually hitting the targets and making sure that you don't go backwards. And then, like you said before, having a bad day that turns into a bad week and a bad month. That's probably one of the key components, is being proactive, which is just scheduling ahead and knowing what's upcoming in your schedule.
One of the things that I've actually implemented that I really enjoy is keeping a checklist for every.
Yep.
So like right now in my day planner, I have, you know, there's a box for every single day, and you can easily just go get a tally sheet or a counting notebook, and then put a check every day you do something correct. And
Yeah.
just like that spiral, you start wanting to not lose the streak, right?
Yeah.
So
100%. Yeah.
you want to. So for me, had a juice every day, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Yep.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? I get
Yep.
enjoyment out of checking off the box and seeing a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
7, right?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
going for a walk, check. Or,
Yeah.
30 minutes Facebook outreach, or 30 minutes on the bicycle, whatever it is for you, keeping this streak can be very rewarding and helps you visualize
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I highly, highly recommend it. So, what are some of the things that you do for your clients to help keep them on track? Because like you said, they may have some more time to work out or some less time to work out. What do you do to help them? Do they keep a journal? Do they have a special workbook that you provide? What's really some of the tools of the trade that keeps them on par?
Yeah, for sure. So pretty much everything that my clients do that is critical and crucial to their results has a number attached to it. So just like if you're running ads on Facebook, we have Facebook Ads Manager, and there's like a tremendous amount of data. We apply the same philosophy to health and fitness. So using my performance tracking systems, that covers everything from recovery to your daily output to your daily intake, and then analyzing that on a daily and a weekly uh, perspective, gives us all the numerical feedback that we need to know, okay, are you on target? Are you off target? And what's working and what's not working. Just like we would do with Facebook ads. If you're running 10 ads, you want to know what's the click-through ratio, what's the impressions, what's the cost per lead, how many sales did it generate, and then you want to get rid of what's not working and keep what is working. So we pretty much take that same philosophy, apply it to your health and fitness, but from an approach that I call the MED approach, which is minimum effective dose, which is essentially the same philosophy as MVP, which is like your minimum viable product, which is like, common theme in the startup land. But we call it minimum effective dose. What that means is we take everything that you need to do and break it down into this, like the smallest chunks. So what's the least amount of exercise you need to do on a weekly basis to still hit your targets? What's the least amount of effort and time you have to put into your nutrition to still hit our daily targets and weekly goals? And what's the minimum amount of tracking you need to do so that at any point, whether it's a Tuesday or Thursday or Saturday or Sunday, I know what you have done, what you haven't done, if you're screwing up or if you're, hitting the marks and making progress. That way it takes all the guessing out of it. It takes the uncertainty out of it. It takes away that self-doubt where you're like, at nighttime being like laying in bed going, oh my God, like I'm trying so hard. Is this going to work? Am I capable of losing all this weight? Well, yes, you are. You just need to know if you need to have the confidence that you're doing the right things. And how you have that confidence is by tracking the right data, measuring it, managing it, and then the feedback tells you if it's working or not.
Yeah.
Without all that, it's like going to Facebook and saying, here you go, run this ad for me, and you get no data in return. Yeah, like how do you have any clue if it's working, right?
I mean, it's funny because we all sort of laugh at that guy who's at the gym with his little notebook, but that's the guy
Okay.
who's
Yeah.
actually going to make a difference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, like, are you being silly? Like, are you being not as good as you need to do? Because
Yeah.
we all go to the gym and we see the same people there for years that have made no difference in their body, right? They're doing the
Yeah.
same thing over and over and over again, but they're not tracking it. They're not seeing how their weight is going up or down. They're not tracking what they're eating, and they're not tracking their ability to push heavier weights, and what they're doing on each machine. And what you're talking about is actually knowing the score, right? And once you know the
Yes.
score, now you can track it. Once you can track it, then you can see improvements or decreases. This is the same principle that happens both in finance, right? If you're not
Yep.
taking a look at your numbers every single day, right? Just like you're taking a look at what you're eating every day and how you're doing overall in your program, you're not going to make big significant improvements, and your results will always be random. They'll Because your life is random, because you're reactive. So can you talk a little bit about what is the ideal diet for an entrepreneur? What should they eat? When they should eat? What's your
Yeah.
recommendations on that?
Yeah, this this question really opens up a lot of rabbit holes, but I'm going to do my best to not go down them. But now, the diet industry is one of the most bastardized, conflicting, confusing, um, marketing abused bullshit things I've ever seen. But what you need to understand is that all diets have a purpose and all of them work for the right person at the right time in the right situations in their life. I can't honestly sit here and say this is the best diet. Like, you're probably expecting me to say fasting. You've got to start fasting. The 12 to 8 p.m. or the 16-8 they call it, where you eat for 8 hours and you fast for 16 hours. Like, yeah, that is a great strategy for the right person who can actually stick to that for more than a month or two, right? Personally, I hate fasting. Why? Because I like to eat food. I like to wake up and have breakfast. I like to get my 3 servings of protein because that's optimal for the metabolism and for protein absorption in the body. Having your protein split across 3 or 4 meals is better than two. So you've really got to understand the fundamentals of nutrition, and what the hell the body does with it. So practical tips on this would be, you know, I guess how I approach it with my clients is understanding what times they can eat. So you've got to really take a more of a pragmatic view. So if you're really busy, okay, cool. Now, what times can you actually eat that will be consistent? You know, for most people, their lunch times might be highly variable. Like if they've got meetings and they're busy, they might not be able to stop for lunch until 3 or 4 o'clock. So having a set lunch is not going to be a realistic thing every day. So in that case, you might decide, well, instead of saying I'm going to have 3 meals every day, I might have 2 meals and a snack in the afternoon to bridge that gap. That could be a more realistic structure to your nutrition, right?
Yeah.
Um, versus, if you're someone who tends to work very late in the night and wake up later, well, maybe breakfast for you might not be viable. So you might actually have like a late breakfast or an early lunch, and then you'll have, you know, dinner time early in the night, and then you might have like a supper or something once you finish your work around 9 or 10 o'clock. It really depends on your schedule. So my words of advice is take a realistic view on what you can actually stick to, because it pains me and grinds my teeth to see people try to push a square peg into a round hole, thinking that if I just do this keto diet, if I just do this fasting thing, if I just do this paleo veganized carnivore slash 75 hardcore thing, that's going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will work whilst you do it. But as soon as you stop, it's going to reverse everything that you just did.
Yeah.
So, my words of advice is don't start something you can't finish. Don't start a diet today that you can't do until the 31st of December 2021. That's my words of advice, because if you do anything other than that, you're going to do it for 2 months, 3 months maximum, and then realize like, oh man, this is too hard. You
Yeah.
know, like I miss cake, I miss pasta, I miss having drinks with my parents or my friends on a Friday afternoon, right? And you should be able to enjoy all those things just like I do. Like, I'm not talking crap. Most days I have dessert. And if I could drink alcohol, at the moment I can't because of some medical issues, but if I could drink alcohol, I would. I would have a beer, a wine, some scotch, every week, because that's what I enjoy. And it keeps me, level.
Absolutely. And I think the important part is when we go on diets or we go on these fads, we do a swing to one end, right? We go like all out,
Yep. Yep.
juicing 5 times a day, right? Something that's
Yeah.
unrealistic that,
Yep.
like it's not sustainable. And from what I've
Correct.
been researching, what I've been learning is as entrepreneurs, we want to keep our life and our diets as consistent as possible. Like you said, we want to eat
Yep.
at around the same times. We want to go to sleep around the same time. So our body isn't going into these fluxes where it doesn't know what's
Yep.
next, right? Because
Correct.
if you don't eat till 5 o'clock on one day because you're busy, what happens to your body, Zach? Like your body now thinks it's underneath a different circumstance. So, can you talk a little bit more about how consistency in meals and sleep is important for optimal energy?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to take a bit of a higher view on this and understand just like human physiology. So our body runs off like a circadian rhythm. Now, obviously, our time is based on 24 hours, but our brain regulates itself based on our sleeping patterns. So it runs on like a 24-hour cycle. Now, a lot of guys say, I get hungry or I get pretty sluggish or mentally foggy or maybe a little bit sleepy in the afternoon between, say, 2 and 4. Now, that's not a coincidence. Between that time frame, for most people who sleep in the regular times, like someone who goes to bed at, say, between 9:30 and 10:30 and gets up between 6:30 and 7:30, they might have a bit of a sleepy mind in the afternoon. The reason why is because that's when cortisol tends to reach the kind of bottom level for the day, when your brain stops releasing cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So you wake up in the morning, what gets you up is cortisol. That is like a stress hormone, which kind of keeps everything awake and alert, gets the heart rate up, heats up the body, gets the metabolism going. In the afternoon, it reaches its lowest point because that's when your brain starts to release, like very slowly, starts to release the hormones that start relaxing the body. So that by the time bedtime comes around, your melatonin is at its peak. Your melatonin is a relaxing hormone, which pretty much the brain telling the body, hey, slow down, cool down, relax, so that we can sleep into some deep sleep, and then the brain gets to work in repairing your muscle, your organs, tissues, processing memories, detoxing chemicals from like cells that has been burning throughout the day. So the main point is you got to understand it from a larger viewpoint and understand that the point that you just said about like the body loves consistency, it absolutely does. And we're not just saying that to be like motivational and like, yeah, like you got to be consistent. No, like the body actually loves consistency. Like proven scientifically, that's how we're built. We are humans are manufactured around a 24-hour clock because that's the time it takes for the earth to complete one revolution, right? So we are a product of the earth. So you've got to understand that from a physiological point. Now we get more specific in terms of consistency. Well, yes, the more consistent you are, the more your body is going to perform predictably day to day. So, like you said, if you're eating one day at 6 a.m. and then you're eating at 12 at midday, and then you're skipping dinner and having a dinner at 10 o'clock at night right before bed, you're pretty much like going against what the body actually wants and throwing it out of homeostasis, where, like you said, random activity creates random results, random outcomes. So if you want predictability in your health and fitness, and just like with your business, you kind of need to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know that's a high level view, but I can't get stuck down into the details and the weeds because every client's different.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that's
and that
that's
and
my
that's
high
and that's
view.
really why people come to you, Zach, is because they need this customized plan, because each of their
Yeah,
businesses and each of their lives are different. Some people have
correct.
different case preferences, some people have different workout needs or capabilities, and that's when
Yeah,
hiring a fitness coach and a health coach is so important. And because they will customize a generic plan to specifically you and what your current needs are, and that is what people come to you to get that advice from. So I've been really enjoying your Facebook group where you've been sharing a lot of these insights and secrets, and I've been seeing some great results. I mean, you have some entrepreneurs losing a lot of pounds. What's the average right now?
so the average, I mean, there's like a range. So I typically work with like the guys who come to me have like at least around 15 to 20 pounds they want to drop, and they've typically tried diets before. They've done different workout programs. They've probably had a personal trainer or tried CrossFit, or even were like a few of my clients. We used to be like marathon runners and stuff like that, but they never learned how to make it a manageable and maintainable lifestyle. It was always like goal driven. Like I'm going to do a marathon, so I'll train like a monkey and go crazy for 3 months and lose 30 pounds, run a marathon. Then after that, they kind of relax and start drinking wine again and eating McDonald's and putting on all that weight again. So they come to me because they want to break that cycle. But the average is, yeah, somewhere between, at least 15 to 20 pounds and up to 40 to 50 pounds. That's kind of the sweet spot for the guys that I help. And the rate that we focus on is dropping, 1 to 2 pounds a week. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot. It's not very exciting. It's not like this biggest loser, like I dropped 40 pounds in 3 weeks, because we avoid that because it's not sustainable. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
So instead, we look at, again, MED approach. What's the least amount you can do to drop 1 to 2 pounds a week? That way, you're going to see the progress. You're going to feel good about that. It's going to motivate you and inspire you if you see those numbers improving every week. But at the end of the month, if you hit that target, you've dropped 4 to 8 pounds, right? The next month, we repeat that, and then we just keep building on those foundations. So that's the sweet spot. And that's what we do. We kind of reverse engineer the goal and create the system so that that's what we're going to predictably see week after week. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So I know you were saying each of the diets are completely different based off of the individual. Is there a
Yep.
generic best practice that you like to suggest if you didn't have a chance to
Yep.
customize it to the individual? Do you believe in intermittent fasting? Are you a bulletproof coffee type of guy?
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
what are generic things
Okay.
that if somebody hasn't had a chance to work with you directly could actually impact them and their life, would you say?
Okay. Well, let's assume that if you're someone who's looking to drop some pounds, then the primary focus for you is going to be a couple of things. So the first thing is you need to know what your optimal daily intake is that's going to put you in a caloric deficit to drop 1 to 2 pounds a week. Now, how that typically looks for most people, again, it depends on your output, but as a ballpark average, you're going to want to be at least in a 400 to 500 calorie deficit every day. Now, how you figure that out is by running the calculations, by just doing a simple BMR calculation that you can go to Google and find, right? So that's step one, is you got to be in a calorie deficit. Step two, you need to be consuming the right amount of protein. So there's too many guys out there who don't prioritize protein, which means they're not getting enough. And the reason why that's a problem is because long term, our body requires more protein to preserve and recover and maintain muscle mass. So like as we get older, our testosterone slowly decreases, our metabolism is kind of related to that, so that slows down. So we need to be prioritizing our protein to preserve as much muscle as we can so that we stay fit and able and strong for the rest of our life. Second benefit to protein is it's the food group that has the highest thermic effect in the body. So if you're looking to optimize your metabolism, which is essentially what we want to do with my clients, is get their metabolisms performing as optimal as possible, then protein is the priority because your body requires more energy to break down protein than it does for carbs and fats. So your protein needs to be a priority with every meal. You need to be getting at least between 1.4 to 1.8 grams per kilo of body weight. So I know pounds is the measurement for the US, but kilos is easy. You can always just go to Google and type in, pounds to kilos. That's 1.4 to 1.8 grams per kilo of body weight. That's the sweet spot. Okay. And the third step is to break down those numbers across how many meals you can realistically stick to every day. So if you can have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, great. Split those numbers across 3 meals. Or if you can only have, say, breakfast and dinner and a variable snack throughout the day, that's also fine. Maybe you want to have more of a protein and fat based breakfast and more of a protein and carb and vegetable based dinner, and then some variable convenient snacks throughout the day, which could be you know, um, like a protein shake with some fruits, or it could be a salad with tuna or something that's convenient and easy, right? So that's the way that I approach it. It's very much like a real food balanced diet based on the science that's actually going to work, instead of trying to put a square peg into a round hole and say, no, you have to do fasting forever.
Yeah.
Or no, you can only have bulletproof coffee with coconut cream, and then you have to fast for 10 hours and then look at the sun and, kiss a frog or something stupid. I don't know. But
I've been on that diet, the kissing the frog one. It's been
oh, cool.
I mean, what's interesting as being an entrepreneur, when we hear these, statements of like, don't eat past 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock, right? We
Right.
hear these general things.
Yep.
But what's very interesting about this interview we've been talking about is those things have to work with your schedule. And now the
Correct. Yeah.
question of it is, if you're eating one day at 6, another day you're eating at 10, you're allowing this consistency to happen. And
Yep.
also on top of that, almost guaranteed is you're not looking, like you said, at how many calories you are consuming,
Yeah,
because that's
exactly.
different every single day. And for you to properly lose that 600 to 800 calories and be in that deficit, you have to know what you're eating and what that consists of and what portion size as well. These are all
Yeah.
factors that you have to be aware of, so that way you can properly regain control of your health and not leave it to just chance.
Yeah, exactly. And, very often I have guys tell me, like, I'm eating well, I eat healthy, I eat right, but I'm not losing weight. And my response is, well, if you're eating right, but you're not achieving your goal, then you're not eating right. Because if you were eating right, you'd be achieving your goal. So, like you just said, if you're like screwing up the consistency for no good reason, then you're just making it really hard for your body to do what you want it to do. And the guys who don't put numbers to their actions in their health and fitness will never ever know the truth. They'll constantly be on a hamster wheel or a pendulum swinging left to right, looking for the easiest solution. And they're the guys who fall for these gimmicks of people saying like, oh no, it doesn't matter how much you eat. It's because you're not eating this special type of fat, or you're not taking this special type of supplement, or you're not doing this rare secret diet that the Amazonian tribe used to do back in the Inca era. All that is marketing bullshit
Yeah.
and selling to gullible, vulnerable people who haven't learned the truth about how fitness and nutrition actually works. When you learn how it works, it's like the Matrix. It's like you're being unplugged and you're like, holy shit, I've been sold a lie for my whole life.
Yeah,
And that's what burns me, because now I look around and that's all I see is people being sold into gimmick crap. It's like, only if I could just unplug you from the Matrix, you'd see it from my point of view. You'd see through all the marketing and you'd realize why so many people will struggle for the rest of their lives, because they never learned the truth about how their body works and what actually works for their body.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the things that has really helped me out as well is looking at, and I hate to do it, is looking at the calories of
Yeah.
sauces that I add.
Yeah.
If
That's a
you
big one.
start taking a look at the vinaigrette sauce, or you start taking a look at ranch or
Yeah.
ketchup, or
Yeah.
even the olive oil, right? And
Yeah.
before, you know, I was on my health journey, just pour it on. You want some
Yeah. Yeah.
mozzarella, throw it on your salad.
Yeah.
You go out to go get a pizza, meat lovers, give me everything. But there isn't a difference. There's a difference between, like, knowing, okay, I have X amount of calories, right? And it's sort of silly, us as guys talking about counting calories, but when you
Yeah.
get serious about this, you start paying attention to where you're dramatically over what you need,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
here in the States, they have sometimes you go to a restaurant, and they say the burger's 1,200 calories. Well, only
Yeah.
once you realize you add the fries, right?
Mm.
Now you're at like 1,800. There
Yeah.
goes the majority of your meal and calorie intake for the day if you want to be on
Yeah.
par. That
Yeah.
means if you worked out or didn't work out. So now if you
Yeah.
did work out, you can minus a little bit more, but that is the importance of keeping track of that, because if you had that burger and fries and that soda, and you had a breakfast burrito in the morning, and then
Yeah.
you had a meal at 10 o'clock, like a large steak, how do you expect to be in the possible best shape and mindset? You have to really choose carefully. And that is where discipline comes in, because
Yeah.
it's easy to be undisciplined. Like, everybody would love to do that, but nobody likes the results of being undisciplined. Everybody
Yeah.
wants the body, everybody wants the money, everybody wants success, but are they willing to put in the time, the effort, the extra hours, and sacrifice to get there? And that is what having a coach like yourself to keep them accountable and to keep
Yeah.
them on track and to shorten that learning curve. That's why it's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it reminds me of like, people who are employees and they go to work every day and they hate their job, right? Well, why do they go then? If they really hate their job, why do they show up 5 days a week and put in 45 to 50 hours? Well, number one, they have a boss that they're accountable to, right? That they made a promise to. Like, you hired me, I'm going to turn up and do this job. And second, they get paid for it. And that's the outcome of putting in the work that they hate doing, right? Now, you don't have to love fitness. You don't have to love what you eat or how you eat or whatever. But if you don't love the outcome, it's going to be really hard to do that. Now, that's that's where it all comes down to, that discipline and that mindset. But without being clear on what it is that you want, and without having any layer of accountability, it's going to be really, really hard to be put in the discipline to make it happen. So yeah, I agree with what you said.
So Zach, what would you say about sleeping? Right? Is there an
Yeah,
optimal time that entrepreneurs should go to sleep? I know for me, some nights I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes
yeah,
later. And that throws off my whole day.
it does.
Preferably, I would love to wake up, join that 6 o'clock club. I have yet to make it there. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's tough to be early in the morning because you're working so late. So, do you believe in the rule of ideally going to sleep around 10 and 11? Is that sort of the optimal frame
Um,
for entrepreneurs that you found out?
yeah. So again, it's one of those things. There's no set rule, and this whole like 5 a.m. club thing is, it's a really cool thing to post on Facebook and have everyone, like it and say, "You're amazing. Yeah, join the 5 a.m. club." Like, but dude, fuck that. I don't wake up at 5 a.m. Why would I want to do that? Like, no one's awake at 5 a.m. It's dark. It's typically cool. My partner's asleep. What the hell am I going to do at 5 a.m.? What, sit and meditate for an hour? I mean, if you've got time to meditate for an hour and you enjoy doing that, go for it. But what I find is my clients have kids. And if their kids don't wake them up first, then they're typically awake trying to get something done before the kids wake up. So it's not really a case of, stop everything and have this perfect beauty sleep. It's got to fit your schedule. And there is such a thing as like a sleep chronotype. Dr. Michael Bruce is like a sleep guy. He wrote a book on it, and you can do a little test online on his website, and it kind of tells you if you're like a lion or a wolf or a bear. What's the other one? Like a dolphin or something. Anyway, different animal types which kind of represent naturally your time of day that you get the best sleep. So there's people who function better later in the day, which means they should be going to bed maybe more towards midnight or 1 a.m., right? But that doesn't mean everyone should do that. Like for me, that's not good because I start to switch off about 9 o'clock, right? Whereas other people are morning people, where they should get up at 5:30 or 6 a.m. because that's what works better for them. That's when they're most charged. That's when they're most creative. So you've got to have a think about what timing works best for you, but also understand the science. So if you're into sleep, and everyone should be, because we spend a third of our life doing it, and that third of our life that we spend sleeping determines the quality of the time that we're awake. So if you want to have a good day, it all starts with good sleep. You can't, there is absolutely nothing anyone can say about that. There is no disputing that. There's no supplement, there's no gimmick, there's no breathing ritual, there's no plant, herb, or anything, or affirmations that's going to improve your day more than sleep can. So if you're not taking sleep seriously, you're a fool. And I say that with respect. Okay. Not to put anyone down. Now, if you want to learn more about sleep, you should read Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. But the biggest takeaway from that is to understand that 95 to 99% of people need 7 to 8 hours sleep to be fully recovered, to be, to have their hormones at the levels they should be, to not be building up what he calls a sleep debt. If you have one night's bad rest, it can take up to 3 or 4 nights to repay that sleep debt. Right. So if you're going out on a Friday night and drinking and not going to bed till 3 a.m. and then doing again the same on Saturday, you might not actually be recovered till Wednesday. So you're starting the week already behind,
Yeah,
uh, way behind than where you should be. So you've got to understand physiology, and then you've got to understand your schedule and what works best for you. And then you need to understand how to make that consistent. So if you are that type of guy who gets up at 6 a.m. and that works best for you, then you get up at 6 a.m. And even if you're tired, you still have to get up, because you've got to keep feeding back into that conditioning. So you teach your body to go to bed earlier, to get up earlier, and then it all becomes natural.
absolutely. So, as you said, it depends on each person. in the
Does.
different personality styles, even the night owl, let's say, is
Yep.
there an optimal time for them to go to bed? From what I've heard, and it or may or not be true, is that that time frame between 9 and 10, that you release more hormones to help you sleep, which is get you faster into the REM sleep versus later in the evening. Is that theory true still?
There is, yeah, and the sleep experts do talk about that. Matthew Walker talks about that, how it's like the best time to go to sleep is always going to be before midnight, because anatomically something got to do with our the way we evolved as humans. Once the sun goes down, then that's like a signal to the body that it's rest time. So that's when melatonin gets released more, and we're meant to have less, stimulants. So back, hundreds of years ago, we didn't have lights and TVs and sounds and iPads and iPhones and noises. It was just candles, and people just were chilling out and talking, right? Very easy to get a good sleep then. And then typically, the humans back then would wake up at sunrise. That was like alarm clock, was when the sun came up. But now we have all this distorted lifestyle, which is why it's more important than ever to try and simulate that environment so that you're allowing your body to do what it wants to do. And like, for example, even like the effects of caffeine. So people don't realize that, you might get a kick of caffeine for 2 hours, but the caffeine is still affecting your brain for up to 12 hours. So it has a half life of 6 hours. So if you have a coffee, well, half the amount of that caffeine is still affecting your brain in such as that the hormones and chemicals that it's releasing and producing, right? And one of the most important ones that he talks about in that book, Why We Sleep, is called adenosine. So when you start to get that pressure to fall asleep, where like you could be sitting in your chair and you feel like you could just drop your head and go to sleep, that's most likely adenosine being released, which is the hormone that's saying like, go to bed now, it's time to go to sleep. Now that's typically going to happen probably after 9:30 and up to like before midnight. So that's your body just trying to put you to sleep to go rest. And that's when you should, because that's when you're going to get the most amount of deep sleep in the first half of your night. And then you get your REM sleep in the second half of the night, which is why it's important to not do the whole 5 a.m. club if you're not actually getting 7 hours. Like if you're going to bed at midnight and then trying to be a 5 a.m. club, good chance you're only going to get like a bit of deep sleep, and then you're going to cut your REM sleep in half or by a quarter. So your body's recovered, but mentally you're foggy and you're not thinking right because you haven't given your your body enough time to kind of repair the brain and get rid of all the memories it doesn't need, and detox itself and repair whatever it needs to do. Yeah.
So, in the scenario that you wake up and you're tired, do you think
Yeah,
that you should actually go back to bed, or should you stay up till that is a process where you're not?
that is a good question. Yeah. Look, personally, I get up anyway, because if I go back to bed, then I'm teaching my body like that it's not good to get up at that time, if that makes sense. So every action you do is accounted for. So if my alarm goes off at 6 and I'm tired, but I should be getting up, but I go back to bed, then I'm like setting myself up for failure the next day. And I'm like throwing out the rhythm.
Yeah,
So yeah, I see it like I'm better to just get up and bite the bullet and be a little bit tired than I am to try and fight the rhythm that I'm trying to build.
yeah.
But yeah, it can take time. It can take 1 to 2 weeks to reset your circadian rhythm. So you've got to be prepared to do that.
Absolutely. That's powerful stuff. And do you believe about also shutting out light in the room when you're trying to sleep? Like a lot of people talk about
Yeah.
blackout curtains, removing any electronic devices or any type of, watching movies before going to bed. Do you have any recommendation on those subjects?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a sliding scale, like in terms of those little tactics and tricks. Like for example, if you're going to bed at different times every single night and you're struggling to get good sleep, then you know um, doing some little trick like wearing blue light blocking glasses isn't going to do much. So it's kind of like the big rocks need to come first before you put the pebbles and the sand and the water in the jar. So your big rocks, you have to go to bed at the same time every night within like a 30-minute window, and you have to wake up within a 30-minute window as well. That's what's going to determine your body's regularity with releasing hormones that's going to allow you to sleep. So before you start looking at sleep supplements and blue light blocking glasses and special EMF blocking curtains and doing all this crazy shit, just freaking go to bed at the same time. Once you do that for a week, then start looking at other stuff, which could be, blacking out the room and turning on the aircon. So I sleep with the aircon on every night, about 20 degrees Celsius,
For
because if
you
I,
Americans, he means air conditioning. I
sorry?
said for you Americans, he means air conditioning. You guys
Oh,
call
yeah. So what did I say? Did I say aircon?
it aircon, yeah, the
Oh, it's
AC.
just AC. Yeah, we say aircon because we're just lazy Aussies over here. But yeah, the air conditioning, 20 degrees, because I find any hotter than that, I wake up and I'm sweaty, and it keeps my heart rate up. So for me, that's an optimizer. 20 degrees. That way I can sleep with the sheets on. I'm comfortable. I feel safe, because there's a bit of this safety feeling by having the sheets on you. And I also wear block out sleeping goggles, so it's pitch black until I wake up. So yeah, those things do work. But again, you've got to get the foundations right before you start trying to hack and trick your body, because your body's not dumb. We cannot outsmart the brain and the body. It's always going to fight back if we're trying to push it in a certain direction. So you just got to let it do what it wants to do, and it'll like if we look after our body and our mind, it'll look after us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Key distinctions there. So let me ask you, do you, let's say you're working on your diet, right? You got it planned out. You
Yep.
have your workouts planned out. You're tracking your calories. You have a solid idea of when you're eating. You're going to sleep at a consistent time. You're waking up at a consistent time. What about supplements and vitamins? Are you a big component of that? Do you suggest people take a certain amount of milligrams of vitamin C and vitamin D? Or do you think that by properly taking care of those original things, that they should be in a good shape from there?
Yeah. Yes, I do believe in supplements and vitamins and stuff like that. But as a rule of thumb, you've always got to think foundations first. So before you jump online and just buy all these supplements that some guru recommends, like, go and get a blood test done. Check out your vitamin and mineral levels. Make sure that you don't have any abnormal inflammatory markers, that your cholesterol is not high, that you're not low in vitamin D. Like, make sure your body is, where it's at before you start throwing all these supplements in and crossing your fingers that's going to do something. Because the chances are, if you start taking vitamins, you're not going to notice anything. That's a very, very high chance, unless you're deficient in something. So fix your deficiencies first, then focus on the optimizers. Now, if you're overweight, get the freaking weight off first. Don't worry about supplements. Don't worry about special herbs and spices and whatever it is. Get the weight off, and you'll instantly feel a lot better. So I hate to say it, but if there's really people like to say, like, oh, you can still be overweight and healthy. Yeah, only if your blood test is perfect and you're not putting any potential genetic predisposed illnesses at risk.
Yeah,
Now, I'm just going to use myself as an example. Like, I have celiac disease. That's an autoimmune disease. I'm allergic to gluten and wheat. Now, as a carry-on effect, as a chain reaction to having celiac disease, I'm also exposed to other autoimmune diseases. So if I don't take care of my celiac disease, I can set myself up for Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a hyperthyroidism, which is where my thyroid starts to slow down, and that can cause digestive issues, that can cause metabolic issues. Now, if I didn't take care of that, that could lead to arthritis, because there's always multiple chains that are all linked up. So for me, my foundations is always going to be my diet and my stress and recovery, so that I'm not causing more inflammation in my gut and body than there needs to be. So again, if you want to get smart and savvy, do it the right way. Get a blood test. Go get your vitamins and minerals tested first before you start throwing pills down your throat and hoping that that's going to fix your problems, because it probably won't.
absolutely, absolutely. So when somebody would say, I don't think I'm overweight, or I gained a few pounds, but it's okay. How does somebody actually properly evaluate that? Do they go based off of the BMI weight index based off their height? Do you recommend different numbers? How do you evaluate that for your clients?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the BMI scale is a little bit inaccurate and outdated, so I pretty much never look at that. But what is going to be more accurate is your body fat percentage. So the reason why is that they've proven that if you're, 20% body fat and above, then that's medically or scientifically labeled as overweight. Now, if you're like 25% to 30 and above, then that's like mild obese to obese. And then beyond 35% is kind of like chronically obese, right? Now, I didn't make that up. That comes from the medical field. The reason why they have those numbers is because what they have found from millions of humans on the earth is that someone who is in the 20% range of body fat or and above, that starts to cause a chain reaction in the body where inflammation is higher. Their fitness suffers. They're more depressed. They don't move around as much, which can cause weakness in their bones and joints and muscles. They're more at risk of catching diseases and COVID and colds and flus. Like it's all numbers. It's a numbers game. This is not some hocus pocus bullshit. There's numbers behind this. There's a reason why, someone who's 20% above is called obese and that's unhealthy. It's because it creates unhealthy effects in the body. So ideally, if you want to be healthy, then you technically need to be below 20%. And ideally, you want to be below 15 to 14%. Now, some people might say, oh, yeah, but you can still be healthy at 20%. Yeah, you can be, but everyone's different. So for you, that might be the case. For somebody else, that's maybe not. But generically speaking, it's labeled as unhealthy because it creates unhealthy reactions. And you've got to understand human evolution, right? 1,000 years ago, it was healthy to be overweight. Why? Because if a whole crop got busted from a natural disaster and there was a scarcity in food to eat, if you had more body fat, chances are you're going to survive longer. Well, guess what? We don't live in those times anymore. Food is everywhere. It's never been easier to get food. And if you don't believe me, just pull up your phone, open up Uber Eats, and order something. It's going to turn up in 15 minutes. We've never had that luxury. So now what's the science is showing is that it's actually healthier if we want to live a longer life in the modern day, then we need to be taking care of our body fat levels and our stress levels. Because if you have high body fat, you're going to stress more. That is, having more body fat is a higher stress on the body itself. Like if you're walking around carrying 20, 30 extra pounds, like that's like picking up a bag of that weight and walking around with it all day. You're going to notice that. It's a lot of stress on the body. So you need to factor in all these components of it and understand that what is medically determined as healthy these days is somewhere around that, say, 14 to 16% body fat. Where it starts to become unhealthy is when you're getting like 10% and below. And the only reason is if you start to get really low in the body fat, then you're kind of telling your body that, food is scarce. You need to start preserving yourself and slowing down the functions of the body. Now, to give you an example, when I was competing and I got down to 6%, like my libido was gone. Like nothing could turn me on, for lack of better words, right? I couldn't think straight about stuff. Making choices was difficult. I was starving all day. I barely wanted to get up. If I was laying down or sitting down, I didn't want to get up because my body was saying like preserve, preserve, preserve. Now, on the offhand, if you're 20% and above, now you're going to also feel lazy because your body's heavier and it's harder to move around. So the sweet spot is that, 14, 15, 16% where you're lean, but you still have a healthy amount of body fat. You're not super shredded, but you don't look overweight. You look fit, you look healthy, and you have a positive confidence about your body image where you're not worried about it and you're not worried about people judging you or judging yourself.
Absolutely. I mean that's awesome. And how do you suggest people to take a body fat index test? What's the best way to do that?
Okay. If you like accuracy, then you can get what's called as a Dexa scan. That's DEXA, Dexa Scan. Now, that's basically like a bed that you lay on and it just kind of scans your body. And it's really cool. It breaks down, the weight of your bones, the weight of your muscle mass, the weight of your body fat, and gives you all the numbers and totals. It's pretty detailed. So that's probably the most convenient and accurate way to do it. Second to that, which is leading more towards inaccurate but still valid, is to do what's called as an in-body scan or like some kind of biometric scale. So, for example, when I work with my clients and they come on board, I send them out a scale that I use with everyone, and that gives us some extra measurements where we can look at approximately what is their body fat and approximately what is their metabolic rate functioning at, their hydration levels, their muscle mass, and their bone density. It gives us ballpark numbers, which is like in this game, near enough is good enough because everyone is different. Like my 14% body fat is going to be different to yours, right? Like I can look gaunt like a skeleton in the face and like have really chiseled abs at 12%, but my legs and butt can be really fat because I have Italian genetics, right? So everyone's different. So you got to understand that, for somebody else, 12% could be ripped, but for you, it still might be, a little bit soft, but still comfortable, if that makes sense.
You got it. And then how much do one of these meters cost in average?
Yeah, so if you're getting a Dexa scan, that could be 80 to $100. I mean, here in Sydney, it's about 80 to $100, depending on where you go. To get a scale that's legible and decent, you probably want to spend 30 to $50 on a home scale, which you can just get on Amazon. Yeah.
Any good brands that you recommend?
What's I can't remember the exact brand that I use. Yeah, I get mine from Kogan, but I think it's their own brand. But there's ones I think like Fitbit has a good one. What's Tanita? They have a good one. Um, there's so many of them, but they're all good. Like if you're skeptical, just look at the reviews, and if the reviews are all like 4-star and above, then you're safe. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think we covered quite a bit in this interview. I think you
Yeah.
gave like really good overview and details about what entrepreneurs can do to, get to the most effective mindset by having proper nutrition, food, and sleep. Is there any other major topics or discussions you want to wrap this up with? Details that people need to know, lessons that you've learned the hard way, and that would really end this interview with a bang.
Whew, geez, there's probably so many things. I'm just trying to think what would be most relevant. Well, I guess if weight loss is a priority, if you do need to get the weight off, then again it comes back to the fundamentals. Like don't overthink it. Don't try to complicate it or do some kind of trickery or tactics. Just get really good at the fundamentals. Like the only reason I stay lean and fit all year round is because one, I'm consistent with what I do, and I I got really good at the basics and the fundamentals. So I didn't worry about all the trickery and tactics until much, much later. And you'll be surprised what you can achieve if you just get really skillful at doing the basics really well. And it's just like business. If you want to make sales, you've got to market, you've got to prospect, you've got to have more conversations. There's no trickery. There's no one interview or one video that's going to make you rich or blow up your business. It's thousands of that. And it's the same with fitness. So at the end of the day, it comes down to mindset. And I'll wrap it up with this quick story here. But people always ask me, "Oh, is it 90% diet? Is it 10% training? Is it 80% training, 20% diet? Like, what's the ratio?" Well, I actually figured it out recently. Now, how many hours in a week? 168, I think there should be. Now, how much time is someone going to spend working out? Well, if you're my client, I ask that you at least do 30 minutes 3 times a week, which is pretty realistic. So what is that? That's 1.5 hours. Now, as a percentage, what is that over 168? Well, let's work it out. So 1.5 over 168. times 100. Okay, so 0.9%. So you want to know what the percentage is of training? It's 0.9% based on 3 workouts a week at 30 minutes. Now let's talk about nutrition. How often are you going to eat a day? If you're going to eat 3 times a day, let's say it's 20 minutes, that's an hour a day. So hour a day of eating, say, over the whole week. Now that's 7 hours. So let's go 7 divided by 168. Oh wait, 7 divided by 168 times 100. That's 4%. Okay. So far we got, it's 0.9% working out. It's 4.1% nutrition. Now, what about the total of that is 5%. So far, nutrition and exercise is 5%. What about the other 95%? Well, it's every other hour and minute of the day, which comes down to what's behind your eyes and between your ears. It's the thoughts you're having. It's the stress that you're having or not having. It's the choices that you're making. It's the environmental influences. It's what you say to yourself, what you say to others. It's what you're learning, where you're investing that mental energy. So really, it's 5% nutrition and diet. It's 95% what happens between your ears, what happens in the mindset for every other hour and minute of the day, which determines the outcome you're going to get. And that's the breakdown of it. That's really what it comes down to. So that's that.
I think that is so true, because oftentimes we're looking for one area to make all of the difference, but it's a combination of things.
Exactly.
It's not going on some fad diet. It's not taking some type of pill. It's not waking up early and going to sleep. All of those are a conjunction to the recipe. The recipe is not just one thing. So, our goal as entrepreneurs and as individuals is just to become better, just to do a little bit, right? So if you're currently eating McDonald's, trust me, I love the spicy chicken sandwich, sometimes you have that craving. But what I wrote for myself this week on my checklist is no junk food per day. So if I could just do one less meal at McDonald's, I'm around 10% better this week. And the challenge 100%. Is not to go from 100% down to 0. It's to go to 90, then to 70, then to 30, and then that becomes your norm, right? And it's okay to have some French fries once in a while, but like we discussed at the very beginning, don't let that be the downward spiral that takes you into now doing that every single day. And you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Are you doing it based out of stress, or are you doing it based out of convenience, right? If it's stress, let's evaluate why you're being stressed as an entrepreneur and try to take care of that, right? Maybe
that's the 95% right there.
That's the 95%. That's why what happens, right? Or, if it's convenience, why have you not planned out your day and your meals and prep them so that way you can easily eat when you need to eat? So, I thank you so much for your time, Zach, to be on Conversion Icons. We really appreciate the content that you shared. I know that the people who are listening are going to be able to take this and actually apply it, because we covered a lot of practical strategies that people can do in their day-to-day life. I know you have a ton more content. You're always sharing stuff on Facebook and in your group. Can you let people know that are listening what you're up to, how to get in touch with you, and if they want to be able to improve these areas of their life, how they can actually reach out to you to be able to actually do just that?
Yeah, for sure. So like Facebook is really my primary kind of platform. So if we're not connected, you can just search my name, which is Zachary, Zachary, Mason, and you can't miss it because I've got a yellow background and it kind of pops out there. And all my content, my free live trainings, my Q&As, my resources that my clients get, are all inside of my group, which is Weight Loss Tips for Busy Professional Men, which is just facebook.com/groups/top men community. So yeah, if you can find me there, happy to reach out and have a chat more about what might be holding you up, or if you're looking to achieve a goal but don't have a clear plan in place, then happy to chat about that. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Reach out to Zac if you're a busy entrepreneur. Even if you're an entrepreneur that's not busy but wants to get their weight in check,
Yeah,
he's the
yeah,
guy.
exactly.
You
You
should
don't you don't have to be working 80 hours to get help.
and the truth of the matter is, no matter what you do, you will improve your life in all your areas once you start taking care of your health. Once you
Yeah,
start
there's no
taking care of your
dispute.
health, it's going to affect your mindset. Your mindset's
Yeah,
going to affect your business, and your business is going to affect all of your relationships, because at the end of the day, you are all of these areas at the same time. As entrepreneurs, we
yeah,
forget this, and we
yeah,
we we go out of whack on investing into our business. We go out of whack
yeah,
then once we have some money for our health. But one thing that I was taught at a very young age is, once your health is gone, try getting it back. It's
so yeah,
one of
good
those
luck.
things
Yeah,
that the richest men in the world preserve with everything possible, because as
yeah,
longevity is not finite, right? And when
yeah,
you are sick in bed at the hospital, you're not thinking about your business, you're thinking about getting healthy. So
yeah, exactly.
an ounce of prevention is worth everything. So it's up to you as an
100%.
entrepreneur to be able to manage all of these things in your life without getting too far on one or the other, because that could make the difference between a healthy life and one that isn't. And even with millions of dollars in the bank account, there's people that are super successful that would trade it all in just to have their health. So if you're listening to this podcast, you still have a chance. You can still improve. There's people that are 90, 100 years old, still working out, still being
Yeah,
healthy. And there's people
exactly.
that are 60 who can hardly go dancing. I recently,
Yeah,
I recently had the privilege of seeing some people in my family that I really respect, and they're 90 years old still dancing, and they look better than some 70-year-olds. So it all depends upon your diet, your mindset, the stress, and how you deal with that. And that is exactly what Zac and his group talks about, and how you can have the same results in your life. So thank you so much for coming on to Conversion Icons. It was a pleasure having you, and I'm excited to have you on later, as well as providing on for the VIP members bonus material to
awesome.
access to your group and other resources that will be in the show notes. So once again, this is Allen Kotlyar with Conversion Icons. Thanks so much, Zac. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, Alan. That was awesome.